Good morning, America. You're listening to America's Voice now. My name is Michael Evans. I'll be your host this morning. And we are going to have a discussion on topics covering a range of things, predominantly where we are in our state and national political life. Our goal is to educate, inform, motivate, and activate you. Why do you need to be activated? Well, because our republic is in dire danger. If you are not seeing the race towards totalitarianism in our nation, I invite you to open your eyes. I invite you to open your ears. I invite you to open your mind. Stop listening to what the lamestream media is telling you. They're lying to you. You are being fed and manipulated like livestock. Their goal is to provide misdirection and confusing rhetoric so that you're not really sure what the truth is anymore. And then you will begin to follow their lead. The issues that are being pressed upon us every single day are those of tyranny. Make no mistake about it. Our nation is descending into it. There is brand new legislation being proposed that would require every gold and silver transaction to be registered with the state. You got to be kidding me, right? No, I'm not. In Connecticut, you need the state's permission to buy ammunition. In Connecticut and Colorado and New York, you now need to have your fingerprints taken, and you need to register your weapons. You need to register your high-capacity magazines. If this, ladies and gentlemen, is not the definition of insanity, I'm not sure what does constitute that. The press is on. The war has begun. It's begun silently. It's begun sneakily. And it's been begun using the number one tool in the arsenal of our federal and state governments: propaganda. You're being played. Think of it like this. You're fresh off the farm, you get off the bus, and a fast-talking con man approaches you. You're being played. You're being played. Fox News reporter Jana Winter is facing jail time for doing her job too well. Don't you see that the pressure is coming from every side? She's not accused of doing anything wrong. She's accused of doing something that the press has been doing since the inception of this nation: protecting the identity of a confidential news source while reporting on an important development that was part of a national story. And a Colorado court has now made a pending murder trial more difficult with a second legal case with First Amendment ramifications. This is all in reference to the James Holmes, the Dark Knight Batman shooter in Aurora, Colorado. Now, Fox News sent a writer she's based out of New York, but they sent her to Colorado to cover the story. And she broke an exclusive story by revealing that prior to the shooting, Holmes had sent a package to his psychiatrist that was over at the University of Colorado. If you recall, he was a student there. And it included a notebook that was full of all kinds of details about how he was going to how he was going to do this. This is the shooting in Aurora in the theater. Her July article, which was obviously reported on Fox News, stated that the notebook contained illustrations of a massacre, including drawings of gun-wielding stick figures shooting other stick figures. Now, the package that was sent to the psychiatrist, her name was Fenton, is now in the hands of the defense attorneys. So Winters, as a reporter, wanted to tell both sides of the story, not the side that has the sensationalism that I showed you the other day on our website with a brand new blog post about how any story that has to do with firearms is geared and designed to make you have an emotional response. So her story cited unnamed law enforcement sources and drew a reaction from the defense attorneys on Holmes' side. They accused the government of violating the gag orders that had been issued on the case and stated that the disclosures were violating Holmes' right to a fair trial. The defense attorneys asked the judge to assist them in finding out who was the source of the story, which was an unnamed law enforcement, a law enforcement official or somebody in the law enforcement community. So the judge said, okay, we'll launch an investigation and you can run it. And so they called all these law enforcement officers onto the witness stand. And each of the law enforcement officers denied having talked to the media. So then, because that wasn't good enough, they turned to the writer. They turned to Winter. They went after her. They wanted to compel her to testify. She's not part of the case. She's a reporter. How is it that you are dragging a reporter in to testify in a murder case? They want to force her to produce her notes and her records and her reporting sources and to identify who those sources are. I mean, you have to realize they're actually submitting a subpoena to drag her from New York to Colorado to force her to participate. They actually obtained a subpoena. They actually got it approved. She had to appear in the courtroom. April 1st. Isn't that amazing? April Fool's Day. She had to appear in the court. I mean, what's even more disturbing about this is that Colorado has something called the Shield Law. And the premise behind that, there's 32 or 33 states that have it. The Shield Law protects reporters from being forced to reveal sources. Because you have to understand the importance of the First Amendment issue on the press and protection of their sources. If the press, whose job it is to investigate, identify, and uncover problems within any range of areas, whether it be government or corporations or what have you, if they have a source who's willing to give them the details that enable them to break and write a story, they have to have the wherewithal to keep that source confidential. People with information won't talk if they think they're going to be revealed. Isn't that basically the truth? Basically, the idea behind the Shield Law and the First Amendment is that the public has access to information. If you cannot feel confident that you can tell an author or a writer in the press or a news person something confidentially, we will never have people in government who will say, hey, guess what? I know something you ought to know and should be able to tell the public.
Well, that's the alleged purpose of having whistleblower laws, the alleged purpose. But in fact, the way a lot of the whistleblower legislation works is that you can speak up and say something, but if you do, the reality of the matter is they may not be able to fire you, but your career is gone.
If they find out that you had anything to say.
Right.
But the whole point behind the Shield Law is to prohibit a reporter or a writer from being forced to reveal who you are in the first place.
Right, and it's another check and balance. It's another one of those checks and balances that's worked into the system.
Well,
good luck.
They're
there.
violating it all over the place. Folks, we're going to take a quick break. When we return, we'll talk more about this and many other stories this morning. We'll be right back.
The area's best selection of firearms, ammunition, and accessories can only be found at West Plains Pawn and Jewelry.
Online at westplainspawn.com.
Top of the line new and used optics from Nikon, Leopold, Burris, Redfield, Zeiss, and Schmidt and Bender. Ask about their selection of binoculars, laser sights, and night vision goggles. With new arrivals every week, the area's best selection of firearms, ammunition, and accessories can only be found at West Plains Pawn and Jewelry, 1713 West U.S. Highway 160, or shop online at westplainspawn.com.
At Napa Auto Parts in West Plains, from now until the end of April, they are offering an oil change special. 5 quarts of Napa fully synthetic motor oil and a Napa silver oil filter for $19.99. Save up to $10 with mail-in rebate on wiper blades or spark plugs, and Seafoam motor treatment under $7.
All right, we're back. What's important for you to note out of this story is essentially this: that the pressure is on from every aspect against all things that protect you and protect your liberty. We are not moving towards an ism. I don't care whether you believe that we're falling towards socialism, communism, fascism. I believe it's fascism, and I can explain to you why. In fact, I have before. But what matters is that it is not republicanism. And we are a constitutional republic. Wherever we are headed, whatever you want to believe, whatever you want to call it, it ain't what we signed up for. That's the truth. And anything and everything else is smoke and mirrors. To require gold and silver registration while hammering away at your free press, and let's be honest, there's so little true press professionals out there that we now have to resort to amateurs like me to tell you what's really going on. I fully admit it. I'm an amateur. I'm not a trained correspondent. I have no training in journalism. I can string a few words together, I can read between the lines, I can reinterpret that, and I can feed it back out to you so that you have some way to understand what's really happening. That is what a journalist does anyway. But the difference is, because our press has completely abdicated their authority and their responsibility and their duty, I've got to do it. Because they're not.
They've got an agenda. They've got an agenda.
Well, the agenda is clearly not professional journalism. Their agenda is to make sure that you are manipulated and indoctrinated into this philosophy. You know, there's something posted up on our Facebook page, and you got to see this. It's a question off of a test. Wait until you hear this. Here's the question. This is being taught to our children in school today. What is the major advantage of socialism? A, it is more efficient than capitalism. B, more people share in the benefits of society. C, it results in low production costs. D, it is free from economic instability.
How about none of the above?
Where the hell is none of the above? Where is the answer that says there are no major advantages to socialism? That we have a republic. Where is the education that determines and teaches these children what is the difference between a republic and a democracy?
But you're operating under the premise that there would be anything akin to a civics class taught in schools anymore, and it's not about teaching tradition and what the functions of government is. It's about pumping out rhetoric. Okay?
That's my point. It's indoctrination. They are nothing further. They are nothing different. Let me tell you something. Our public schools, for the most part, and I'm not saying that here in the Midwest, you know, you've got local schools that are probably taught, in some sense, a greater level of civic responsibility. But here's the problem. They're teaching out of textbooks that don't offer that. So that means if the teacher is not willing to stand up and push back against the tide of indoctrination and betrayal, then your kid ain't learning it even here. That's my point. The textbooks don't explain what is a republic, what is a democracy, what is socialism, fascism, communism, any otherism. I'll tell you, they don't teach that. And that means that it's either up to the teacher to be responsible enough and knowledgeable herself or himself enough to do that, or your kid ain't learning that. And I'm telling you right now, this is a printout of what's in the textbooks. So even if your teacher, who's a true conservative, constitutional thinking, reasoning individual, wants to teach the alternative, they are undermined by this textbook, which says, what is the major advantage of socialism? It is more efficient than capitalism. More people share in the benefits of society. It results in low production costs, or it is free from economic instability. When the simple damn truth is, it is none of the above.
You know, Mike, I don't...
You know what it says below that? Please select the best answer from the choices.
So I think socialism is fabulously successful. Just look at Europe. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, you
Let's
said
not
that out
look
loud.
at Europe. I'm sorry.
Here's the problem. The evidence is everywhere that isms don't work. Communism has failed. Communism has failed in Russia. Quite honestly, it's failed in China too. Make no mistake about it. China is a one-off. I'm a one-off. China is not the kind of communism that you can replicate across multiple countries, and I'm going to tell you why.
All right, tell me.
They have, one, well over 1 billion people. Two, they're mostly an agrarian economy outside of their cities. And China has utilized the gluttony of the Western world to make communism not function, but appear to have economic benefits.
Yeah, but Mike,
because the people who are working in those factories are slaves. We don't know that because the press will not tell us.
But it's all about appearances.
I'm just telling you that
it's all about appearances.
I'm just telling you that the reality is that if you go to an Apple factory, they have nets wrapped around the building so that people can't jump and kill themselves. And that's your Apple, by the way, your iPod, your iPhone. So go ahead and keep buying Apple because you know what you're doing? You're contributing to slavery. I don't own a single Apple product, and I'll tell you why I don't. One, Apple is like a cancer. Once it gets into your world, it absolutely wants to control everything that you do. Two, everything reports back to Apple, including what you're doing, which is none of Apple's damn business. Three, Apple utilizes slavery to manufacture their products. And if you want to participate in slavery, you go right ahead. But I'm not gonna.
But we don't call it slavery. We call it something else.
I don't care what we call it. I'm telling you what it is. And that's the end of PC. I'm not PC. I'm never going to be. And I'm going to call it and tell you what it when I see it and I recognize it for what it is, I'm going to tell you. And I'm telling you right now that what's going on in the factories that manufacture every product that you find on the Walmart shelf, every product that you find over at Target, every product that you buy on the internet that says made in China is made by a slave. And that's exactly where our government wants us to go. They want us to model our nation after China. If you want to live like that, you go right ahead. But I'm telling you right now, leave me out.
But look at how many other things we have, Mike, in this country that we don't identify, at least not in a cognizant manner. We don't identify them as slavery, but in fact, they're forms of slavery. When you get a house note, you're slave to the bank. Well, you get a car note, you're slave to the bank.
That's economic versus physical. And I'm telling you right now, in China, it's physical. And if you dare defy, then you are basically either tossed into the equivalent of a gulag or you just evaporate and disappear from society. Now, there's two different types of slavery. One is involuntary servitude, and the other is voluntary servitude. And you all have heard me say 1,000 times that we are slaves of our own making because you have a credit card or six, or you have a brand new car that keeps you from being able to have any cash that you can spend on anything else because you insisted on driving some fancy, widget-laden piece of crap.
I have the best kind of car there is, the one that's paid for.
Yeah, well, me too. But the simple truth is, how many of you are driving around with a car bill? I'm not saying you can't have one. I'm saying that when you have a car bill and you have a second car bill and you have a mortgage and then you have credit cards and you have debt that comes out, for your utility bills to put that boob tube on and the indoctrination box that sits in 4 rooms in your house, you're a slave and you don't even know it. And this mass media and the press are making sure that they're reinforcing everything that tube cannot force down your throat. Welcome to the police state. You live in it, you support it, and yet you deny its existence. Hello. That's on you. You're listening to America's Voice. We'll be right back.
Fox News News Radio. I'm Lillian Wu. In Kansas, lawmakers passing a sweeping bill that declares life begins at fertilization.
In addition to blocking tax breaks for abortion providers, the new bill would also outlaw abortions performed solely because of the baby's sex.
Fox Radio's Karen McHugh.
Those opposed to abortion say the bill lessens the state's entanglement with terminating pregnancies, while those in favor say it threatens access to abortion services. Governor Sam Brownback is expected to sign it into law.
The parents of Trayvon Martin have settled a wrongful death claim against the Homeowners Association of the subdivision where the Florida teen was shot and killed by a neighborhood watch volunteer a year ago. And the operator of Japan's crippled nuclear plant is worried there may be a leak of highly radioactive water from a temporary storage tank into the soil. Fox News. We report, you decide.
Thanks to our friends over at Ozark Mountain Self-Reliance. You can reach Brian down there at 870-492-4030. It's located a half mile east of Walmart on 3225 Route 62, Mountain Home. My dear friend Mary over at Chantilly's Artisan Bakery, the best damn bakery in 100 miles. She's located at number 2 Evans Arcade, and you can call her at 255-2253. My friends over at Pizza Hut on Porter Wagoner Boulevard. They have an outstanding lunch opportunity. You can, from 11 till 2, and you can have salad and pizza, something tasty and something good for you. Our friends Bill Stone over at Stone Construction at 293-0116. If you're considering doing any kind of remodeling, new or custom construction and or light commercial, give Bill a call and let him bid on your next project. Our friends at the Battery Station at 303 Washington Avenue, 417-257-7799. They can be found at thebatterystation.com. Our friends over at West Plains Pawn and Gun, an outstanding opportunity with 400 firearms under glass. You can reach them at 417-256-3000, and they are located at westplainspawn.com. Located physically at Highway 160, about a mile past Walmart on the right-hand side. And finally, the sponsor of our phone lines, Wits End Classic Barbershop, located on the square in West Plains. Best haircut you can get for $10, and a nice young man as well. Please visit and support our sponsors.
Hi, this is Sheila Murphy, store manager at Big Lots. We're located in the Southern Hills Shopping Center in West Plains, Missouri. Southern Hills is home to the best shopping establishment in South Central Missouri. Come visit some of your favorite department stores, and if a full day of shopping is on your list, there are also plenty of great places to eat when you get hungry. And they're all within walking distance. Southern Hills is the largest shopping center in the area and has everything you will be looking for. No need to leave West Plains. Stay local and shop local with Southern Hills Shopping Center. Proud to serve West Plains and the surrounding communities.
News Talk 107 The Point weather sponsorships are available for your business marketing plans. Contact Cody or Josh at 255-2548 for more information.
From the Point Weather Center for this morning, we have partly sunny skies with a high near 72. Winds gust as high as 28 miles per hour. Tonight, slight chance of showers and thunderstorms after 1 in the morning, a low around 52. I'm Dawn James, and for more information, visit my1071thepoint.com.
Last time on the Dennis Miller Show.
At an event thrown by the website Politico, Bill Gates said, quote, "Some days I wish we had a system like the UK, quote, to give Obama more power." Yeah, some days I wish Windows worked like Apple. How's that, Billy Boy? These guys are fetishistic. He wants it to work more like the UK. He wants to see Obama padding around in one of those powder.
Weekdays from 9 till noon, it's the Dennis Miller Zone on the Ozark's Best News Talk 107.1.
Meanwhile, folks, officials can't account for $700 million in Katrina aid.
How much?
$700 million in Katrina aid from the Hurricane Katrina cannot be found or accounted for.
Sweet.
This is a new report by the Department of Housing and Urban Development. By the way, if you ever wanted to see an operation that runs like communism, that would be it. This was supposed to help Louisiana's Katrina victims and protect them from future storms. And basically it was $700 million out of $1 billion can't be accounted for. You've got to be freaking kidding me.
Their checkbook won't balance? Oh, my gosh.
$1 billion was earmarked for home improvement, and homeowners have seen only $300 million of that. So that means that 70% of the money has been stolen, and I'm going to use the word stolen because they can't account for it. Now, if you can't account for money with a ledger and a checkbook, and if you can't account for it on a spreadsheet, that's called theft and embezzlement. And I'll bet you money right now that by the time this president gets out of office, not a single person will have been prosecuted. You know why I say it's going to take until Obama gets out in 2016? I'll tell you why. First of all, they're going to hold hearings. And that's going to drag it out while a bunch of marshmallows pontificate on camera. They're going to rail and scream and yell and hoot and holler. And at the end of the day, you ain't going to see a damn thing done.
You mean they're going to drag it out like Fast and Furious? You mean they're going to drag it out like Benghazi?
Yeah, but nothing will be accomplished. The entire thing will be kabuki theater and a charade. I mean, this is just... HUD comes forth. This relief program dispersed grants of $30,000 per homeowner, right? Among 24,000 some odd homeowners. And it was supposed to be used to elevate homes and protect property that was vulnerable to these storms. Instead, the report by the Inspector General from the Department of Housing and Urban Development, David Montoya, now shows that of the $1 billion that was earmarked for this, $700 million of it is gone.
How can you lose $700 million? Where can it go?
Well, we've lost billions in Iraq and Afghanistan, too. Money was shipped into those nations, folks, in containers, shipping containers. You know the Conex containers you see going down the railroad tracks? Money, cash money, was sent over there to pay the Afghani and Iraqi farmers so that they could build a base and stuff like that, to hire translators, all of it in cash U.S. dollars. Guess what? And we're talking green now. We're not talking anybody writing a check. Most of it's gone and completely unaccounted for. You got to hear this. According to Montoya, the program's intent seems to have been completely ignored by most of the Louisiana residents who received HUD grants. We now have $700 million that we can't account for, and that certainly did not go to elevating homes and preventing future damage from storms. This is money we can't afford to lose. You got to be kidding me. What kind of a rocket scientist is this guy? First of all, if he is the Inspector General for the Department of HUD, where the hell has he been since Katrina? Why does he come out now, how many years later, stating, well, all this money disappeared under my watch, but I can't account for it. And you know what? This is terrible because this is money we can't afford to lose. This is money that we don't get back, and this is money we can't put toward other disaster victims. You know something? I don't want to trust you with a nickel to go get me a glass of lemonade. Now HUD is putting pressure on the state of Louisiana to recover the dispersed money. Where the hell were you in the first place? You should have had checks and balances in place. Do you think that a bank, while you're building a house that gives you a construction loan, doesn't have somebody going out there to make sure that when you say the foundation's poured, there's concrete there? Do you think the bank doesn't have an inspector who goes out to make sure that when you say we framed it up and we sheathed the siding of that house, that there's some lumber in place? Do you think when they give you the tranche that covers the roof, that at some point they don't walk out there and say, hey, there's actually a roof on that house? And do you think before the final payoff, they don't send an inspector out to make sure that 1, the house is there, 2, the foundation is sound, 3, the walls are up, 4, the roof is on, and 5, the damn sheetrock has been put on the wall? And this stupid piece of trash, David Montoya, shows up. That's like the bank inspector walking by 5 years later and saying, you know, we spent $400,000 letting this guy build a house, and the only thing that we can find is a pile of lumber laying in the yard. How long do you think it would be before somebody that worked for that bank would either be fired or in jail for embezzlement? But we don't have that. What we have is a government completely run amok. Damn it. I'm telling you, if you do not recognize the symptoms of this cancer in your body, you are blind, deaf, and dumb. Our nation is collapsing before us. And your absolute abdication of your responsibility and your duty to take action is part of it. So is mine. I'm not abdicating my level of irresponsibility either. But I'm telling you right now, America, you're either going to get off the stick and you're going to start taking some action, or you're going to go into slavery happily. But you're not going to like it the day after they slam that door behind you. I promise you, whatever fantasy land you're living in, thinking this is going to be some kind of utopian grace, let me tell you something. You're about to get a rude awakening. And we have capabilities and abilities within our national government and our state governments today that are going to make anything that you could even remotely have a nightmare about seem like a nice dream. Go ahead, caller. Welcome to the show.
Yes, Michael. How do you expect to be one with us if you will not become one of us? You know, the socio-economic fascist of the world.
Yeah, well, I'm telling you right now, I ain't one of nothing. I'm one of one. And I'm going to stand that way. That's what we built this nation on, was independence and self-reliance and self-responsibility. And I, for one, have had it with the nonsense and the BS that floats around in this country. I've had it with the political correctness. I've had it with the theft and the lies and the scams and the games and the indoctrination and the miseducation, misinformation, misdirection, and corruption. This country has gone to the damn dogs.
Actually, I favor that opinion. You know, shoot them all and let God sort them out at this point. However, that might be a bit drastic.
We can't do that because guess what? If we do that, we're nothing better than they are. That's the problem.
Yeah, it may well
we
be.
have to descend to their level if that's the way that we're going to try to resolve this. We can't do that.
Talking about these things, you know, like in Colorado, they managed to get bills through in the time it takes to spit before it hits the ground. We're still diddling around the firearms preservation bill.
And why? Why?
We have because we have a plurality action in the House. It should have gone through just as easily as it did there, and a little bit better. The problem is our legislators give their mouths to the words and their hearts to the turning away of it. And that is the truth.
Well, I can't. I tell you right now, I can't take much more of the nonsense that goes on and parades itself around as truth and justice in the American way anymore, because there is nothing left of it. In fact, where do you ever even hear that phrase anymore? It's like Walmart used to have the phrase "Made in America." Try to find something in there that is. And now the United States has followed the same course. It used to be truth, justice, and the American way. And I guarantee you, you can't find even a base example of that anywhere in our federal and even in our state government. It is so the corruption has descended so deep. Here's the problem, people. This is a cancer that is inoperable. And it's inoperable because it is metastasized into every major organ that we own. It is metastasized into our bones, into our brain, into our liver, into our spleen, into our spine. And you cannot excise that with a surgical knife. Damn it. It will take radical, and I'm talking about radical treatment to resolve this cancer. And I'm telling you, it is frightening to understand that, you know, this is the same example that we will see. And I'm going to drag this analogy out. This is going to be tantamount to killing the patient to kill the poisonous cancer within him. We're going to have to pump so much radiation and so much chemotherapy into this patient that he may not survive. And I'm telling you, it's frightening. And if you're not frightened, man, I don't know what planet you are living on. You're living in some kind of fantasy land if you don't see this, people. Thank you very much for the call. Appreciate you, brother. Hey, people, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, there are a ton of news stories out here, and I got to get off of this one because first of all, just the word HUD puts this sinking feeling into my heart because I've seen the way that they betray and lie and cheat for decades now. That has got to be one of the most corrupt organizations on the face of the planet. And this guy has the unmitigated gall to come out here and scream bloody murder. Now, I'll tell you what, I'm disgusted.
If you're looking for a new or used pistol, shotgun, or rifle, West Plains Pawn & Gun has over 450 firearms in stock. All your favorite models like Beretta, Glock, Smith & Wesson, Kimber, and many, many more. West Plains Pawn & Gun is also a Class 3 arms dealer, so if they don't have it on the shelf, West Plains Pawn & Gun can order it for you. Even those hard-to-get guns. West Plains Pawn & Gun, 1713 U.S. Highway 160 West in West Plains, or online at westplainspawn.com.
They say that people actually suffer from anxiety if they don't know where their cell phone is. And you know what they call it now? Are you ready? Nomophobia. There are other phobias like boobtubophobia. That's when you're afraid of missing Judge Judy. Okay, the worst of all is commandophobia.
Keep Commando Saturdays from noon till 3 and Monday through Friday with your digital minute at 7:22. The Ozarks Best News Talk 107.1 The Point.
Are you looking to save money? Did you know that in the last 20 years, interest rates have never been this low? That's why you should make the smart call today to West Plains Savings and Loan to start your home mortgage. Just imagine how much money you'll save. Key word is save, as in savings and loan. Your loan starts here and stays here. Never would it be sold to a secondary lender. Call today, 256-3042. That's 256-3042. West Plains Savings and Loan. Equal housing lender, member FDIC.
There is this product on Amazon that is simply going crazy. The Banana Slicer, almost 2,500 consumer reviews. I've been trying to come up with an ideal way to slice a banana. Use a knife, they say. Well, my parole officer won't let me around knives. Or how about this one? What can I say about the Banana Slicer that hasn't already been said about the wheel or penicillin? Obviously, just a pure hoax.
Saturdays noon to 3 and weekdays at 7:35 for your digital minute. It's Kim Commando on the Ozarks Best News Talk 107.1.
We're back. You know, when you talk about a $1 billion, we've become so immune to financial amounts of money that most of us don't even understand the concept of $1 billion or 700 million or $1 trillion. We don't get it. And it's hard to even put that into perspective, right? Because, you know, I mean, everybody knows that a trillion is 1,000 billions and a billion is 1,000 millions, right? We all get that. But the enormity of that is like saying that there's 1 billion stars out there. You know, I mean, we understand the mechanics of it, but we don't understand the true import of that. So let me put it to you in another way that you can grasp. There are about 100 million taxpayers in the United States of America. 315 million of us, roughly 100 million people, pay taxes. The rest are retired, children, or freeloading ticks. And that's the simple reality of it. There are retirees who don't earn income or earn so little income through their investments that it's just enough for them to live on. There are children who obviously don't earn anything unless they're being used on television as pawns. And then there are a significant load of ticks that now outweigh the dog that are bleeding the damn thing dry. And then there's the rest of us saps who are actually paying for all of it. So when you talk about $700 million missing and 100 million people paying it, that's $7 each one of the taxpayers paid. If you file taxes, you got $7 stolen out of your pocket for this boondoggle crap. Well, $7, I mean, what the heck is that? How do I, that's lunch. Oh, I get that. But what you don't get is that this is one of thousands and thousands and thousands of other programs that operate just like it. So when you start doing the math, now you understand why you personally are $70,000 in debt to a government that treats you like you're a milk cow. And then expects you to produce on dry hay. I'm telling you, the cataclysm that is going to have to come down here upon our heads at some point, and I do mean in the near future. Folks, this bubble can't continue. Think of it like this. You're a kid chewing bubble gum, and you're blowing, and you're blowing, and you're blowing, and you see that giant thing blowing up in front of your eyes, and you know it cannot go on. And when it bursts, it's going to burst not just and cover your nose. It's going to cover your face. It's going to be in your hair.
I think it burst on a bunch of people in Cyprus. I think the folks in Cyprus there got a little taste of that.
But, the people in Cyprus are already indoctrinated into the concept that they are part of the collective. We in the United States are not. Most of us have this concept of freedom. Most of us have this ideological or idealistic idea of what freedom is. However, I'm going to tell you something. It's been perverted by the mass media. It's been perverted by the news. It's been perverted by the indoctrination box that sits in 4 or 5 or 6 rooms in your house to make you think that freedom is a brand new pickup truck or a brand new Lexus, or that it's a bag or a box of cereal, or that your freedom is in a reverse mortgage or a new mortgage, or the ability to sue some medical doctor who gave you a bad hip transplant, or you took some kind of medicine that made your kid come out with a brain the size of a pea. That ain't freedom, damn you! Freedom is not to have taken the stupid drug in the first place because your doctor was more interested in your actual well-being than he was in meeting the profit requirements guaranteed to him. Freedom is buying a used vehicle because you know you can't really afford the new one anyway. Freedom is being responsible enough to say, I can't really swing this and make sure that my kid has a good education. Freedom is responsibility. Freedom is having the freedom to do what you choose, but using reason and logic to restrain yourself from those things which are against your best interest.
But you said it earlier, Mike, it's not about thinking and the thought process and putting some critical thought into this stuff. It's all about emotion. How do I feel about that?
Well, I'm going to tell you something. The whole idea of our indoctrination in our school systems is all about emotion now. There is nothing left for you to actually consider any longer as an issue of logic and reason. They don't want you. I'll tell you what, for the record, and I'm going to do this at the top of the hour, because it's so important that you understand an example of how this was done. At the top of this hour, we're going to have a break in 5 minutes. When we come back, I'm going to read you this story. It's called How the Mainstream Media Has Now Become a Full-Time Propaganda Ministry. And when I get done with this, you are going to understand, and this is only one example. There are literally thousands of examples of this that are promulgated upon you every single day. But what I want you to walk away from the next hour with is the ability and the wherewithal to understand exactly how and why it's being done to you. How you are being manipulated like a sheep to line up to be sheared and eventually slaughtered. Make no mistake about it. You are livestock. You are food. You are food for the oligarchy, the elitists, the globalists at the top of the pile. You are nothing more than a sheep. You are nothing more than a cow on the hoof. You are beef waiting to be devoured by the greedy and the powerful, who frankly are so wealthy at this point. You know, people say, well, why would a guy who's so rich like Soros really care? Well, I'll tell you why. When you have all the money that you could ever spend, ever in all of known history, between yourself and the progeny of the next 3 generations out of your loins, and you've got enough money to make every one of those people spend wildly every day and never go through the amount of money that you have, and you've bought and sold companies, you've conquered the market, there's only one thing left. Now you begin to play with people. That's the simple truth. Ego and the egos of these people who are these elitists, who feel that they know from their experience and have become so enamored and egocentric that they know better than you. That's what this is all about. And I'm going to tell you something. You'll notice that every super ultra rich is a control freak. Make no mistake about it. That is the mark of the beast of the elite.
Don't talk about Bloomberg that way.
That is the mark of the beast of the elite. They are control freaks. Nothing more and nothing less. And the reason is really simple. They didn't get to where they are by being open to ideas from others, by being open-minded, by looking at the best interests of others. They looked out and stepped over a lot of bodies to get where they are today. And they know the rules. The rules are be ruthless, be unforgiving, make no compromise, and do whatever it takes because the ends justify the means. And right now, you are the target. You are the target of that hunter. You are the target of that farmer. You are the livestock of that farmer. And your demise is already understood by them. They are only valuing you as long as you are producing. When you stop producing, whether that be milk or whether that be fur, they will cull you from the herd. And that is what this is all about, people. Make no mistake, if you are believing that these people have some ulterior motive that is ultimately in your best interest, you are a damn fool. The people who make the rules at their behest are damn fools. They actually are stupid enough to believe the indoctrination from the Kool-Aid they've drank. I'm going to tell you something. The minions who do the bidding of these people, who whether they believe it through ideology or whether they believe it because that's what keeps a paycheck on their table, and they're willing to sell you out in a treasonous betrayal for their own personal, so that they can drive a Lexus, so that they can drive a Mercedes-Benz, so that they can live in a beautiful little colonial with 4 bedrooms and 3.5 bathrooms and a dining room laden with the most beautiful lace. That's unforgivable. That's treason. That's betrayal. That's corruption. Inside, externally, internally, every other illy. Our nation has descended into a group who say the simple phrase, "What's in it for me?" And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the crux of the problem with America. When we come back, we're going to find out exactly how the mainstream media bends your mind.
We are the Ozarks' best news talk, KBMV Birch Tree.
Fox News Radio. I'm Chris Foster. It says life begins at fertilization. A sweeping anti-abortion bill is headed for the governor's desk in Kansas.
A new anti-abortion bill approved by the House in Kansas Friday is pleasing to pro-lifers. In addition to blocking tax breaks for abortion providers, the new bill would also outlaw abortions performed solely because of the baby's sex. Those opposed to abortion say the bill lessens the state's entanglement with terminating pregnancies, while those in favor say it threatens access to abortion services. Governor Sam Brownback is expected to sign it into law. Karen McHugh, Fox News Radio.
Threats against public officials in Kaufman County, Texas, being taken very seriously after the deaths of two prosecutors. Two men charged this past week with making threats against officials online. They're behind bars. Neither, though, is suspected of involvement in those murders.
Residents in Kaufman, Texas, said a final goodbye to their district attorney and his wife as the hunt for their killer or killers continues with no obvious progress being made. Mike and Cynthia McClellan were laid to rest nearly a week after they were murdered in their home. And that brazen crime was 2 months after an assistant DA in the same office was gunned down in broad daylight by the courthouse. The list of potential suspects is long, ranging from the Aryan Brotherhood, drug cartels, or an individual who has a grudge. The FBI is hoping a $200,000 reward will help generate the tip that will solve the case and ease the fears of a community and their prosecutors.
Fox's Dan Springer in Kaufman. Highly radioactive water at the broken nuclear power plant in Fukushima, Japan, is being moved from one temporary storage tank to another. There's been a leak detected. Tokyo Electric says about 120 tons of that water may have breached the tank's inner linings. Some of it may be leaking into the ground. Contaminated water from that plant's a problem since the meltdowns after the earthquake and tsunami there 2 years ago. You're listening to Fox News Radio, fair and balanced.
There's more to Fox News Radio than meets the ear. Go behind the headlines and join the conversation on the hottest stories of the day on the Fox News Radio Facebook page. Be a part of the Fox News Radio Facebook fan community. Post comments and tell us your opinions. See behind-the-scenes photos and videos and post your reactions to the stories that matter to you. Click the like button on Facebook and connect with breaking news and features like Fox in the Fast Lane, House Call for Help, and more. Go to Facebook.com/Fox News Radio.
Weeknights, we're busting out a brand new lineup. First, market fraud, government abuse, corruption. At 5, nothing's off limits on money with Melissa Francis. Then, from bloated bank fees to consumer scams. At 6, Jerry's exposing the issues impacting your wallet. Plus, get smart market insight and trusted analysis you won't find anywhere else. At 7, Lou Dobbs is all business. And the first and last name in business, Cavuto, shedding light on the biggest stories making headlines at 8. Only on the Fox Business Network, giving you...
At American Family Insurance, we believe your farm is more than a business. It's your livelihood and your American dream, which is why you deserve the best farm insurance available. Let Barb Middleton show you the options available to protect your farm with your farm personal property coverage, to cover your animals, feed, machinery, and equipment in case of an accident, or blanket coverage, enabling you to flex your farm personal property coverage up to a blanket coverage limit. Call Barb Middleton at 256-7155 or visit amfam.com.
The Donut Palace in West Plains, where the customer is still king. If you're a school group, church group, sports team, or any group function, book it with the Donut Palace. Order 24 hours in advance and at least 3 dozen to receive 10% off your bill, and you won't have the burden of paying tax either. Open 7 days a week from 5 a.m. to 6 p.m. except Sundays when they close at 1. Call today at 417-256-0606 to have delicious hot and fresh donuts at your next meeting. Located at 914 Broadway in West Plains, the Donut Palace.
Weather is a service of News Talk 107.1 The Point. Contact Josh or Cody at 255-2548 for more information on making weather sponsorships part of your marketing plans.
From the Point Weather Center for this morning, we have partly sunny skies with a high near 72. Winds gust as high as 28 miles per hour. Tonight, slight chance of showers and thunderstorms after 1 in the morning, a low around 52. I'm Dawn James, and for more information, visit my1071thepoint.com.
America's Voice Now, delivering truth over mainstream propaganda every single day. Hi, my name is Michael Evans, and I'm your host, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. and 8 p.m., and Saturday morning from 6 to 9 a.m. Join me daily for important guests and my unique slant on hot topics in the news. Visit americasvoicenow.org for even more news, articles, and commentary, and watch our show streaming live to your PC. Share your morning with me. Get educated, informed, motivated, and activated. America's Voice Now, right here on 107.1.
It's about the restoration of our republic. We want to educate, encourage, enable the power. We stand